I think that psychedelics do allow the entities to enter more easily. So that's a real problem.
And so what are your thoughts on opening up to the spiritual world? Like, let's say, what are some benefits to doing that, and maybe what are some potential downsides, or maybe certain paths that you've seen people go down?
Well, when I was younger, I think, like a lot of people I meet these days, I was interested in out-of-body experiences. Like, I was fascinated by Robert Monroe, and I thought that the spirit world was some sort of solution to human life, which is not the case. You got a human experience, and you got the spirit world. The spirit world is very, 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 very big. Like Douglas Adams said, the universe is very, very big. So when you're in the human world, and you understand that you're within this particular framework of limitation, you really, once you see that, you see actually what's happening, then you, I think, take stock and accept it and move forward with it, take advantage of it. Whereas I think that when you see the spirit world, you realize, look, I'm not going to be able to explore this unless I'm dead. And I can see that my destiny is not to die, it's to live as a human for now. And for sure you can explore parts of it, but it's not really the point and purpose of being human is not to explore the spirit world, So having done, many tens of thousands of hours in the space, you see you have all these different experiences of spiritual dimensions and what can happen, and I think some of that can be quite interesting and useful, and maybe there's something true about what Terence McKenna said about trying to bring something back into this reality from those dimensions, but there's no answer in there.
It's even a very old, even a Christian sentiment, bringing heaven onto earth. You bring the immaterial onto the physical plane.
And I think it's useful to know what's above, so we can understand what's below. But also, I think that it's not going to be any kind of answer for the human being, and may become a bit of a distraction. When you do open up those doorways as well, I think you open up to good spirits and bad spirits, and I think that's a very simple way of understanding it. A lot of people will have difficulty with that kind of simplistic duality, which they've transcended, right? And they say, well, good and bad are arbitrary, but there's a big difference between the entities who want to heal you, who want to help you, who want to do surgery on you and seem to be putting in chips and pulling things out and taking your blood and whatever. And the ones who were there to suck your blood and take your energy and steal your power and fuck you over, there's a big difference, and both exist. So I think it's important to see that. And there are some entities who are relatively, benign. Not necessarily interested in you. They just happen to be there, like the harlequins that people see in the tryptamine space.
Would you consider the DMT jesters to be
those DMT jesters? The harlequins. So they're sort of like, okay, you've smoked DMT, and it's almost like, hello, here are the harlequins, and they sort of, doing their thing.
Let's mess with this human.
they're neither here nor there. They're a little bit, they're a little bit of both. But definitely you can experience the negative effects, because some of these entities are parasites, basically, and they're feeding upon the human energy field, and they are wanting to steal your energy and have their way with you. So I think it's important to be aware of the existence of these entities, because nothing in our culture, again in Western culture, we think that we've transcended an understanding that anything like this exists. Somehow we're so much higher and transcendent. So anything that, you know, that people in all traditional societies might have had the belief in, well, they definitely do have the belief in spirits. No, it's very colonialistic perspective. It's like, no, they're just stupid people. They with their primitive little beliefs.
Right.
It's like, we know so much more than they do. It's that arrogance, this whole medicalization of psychedelics. You've got a lot of the people who were into medicalizing, say, psilocybin and what have you. They have no awareness at all. They haven't taken any steps into understanding the indigenous perspective at all. You know, they're just coming at it from a psychotherapeutic framework, and the Western psychotherapeutic, even transpersonal psychological framework, it's not particularly advanced or evolved. You know, if human beings had been seriously investigating altered states for 500 years in the Western tradition, yeah, okay, it would be quite advanced. But a lot of cultures have, you know, and if you look into religion, which is, you know, religion is a depiction of many different cultures' exploration of the other, and they all have an understanding of these spirits, of good spirits and bad spirits. That's part of the cosmology, even in Buddhism. The Western, like, supposedly logical, supposedly rational perspective, there's nothing there. It's a kind of a void, right? Like, physicists might talk about other dimensions, but they don't talk about any sentience that exists in those, that would have to exist in those dimensions, right? They just talk about these other dimensions as if they're empty, as if there's
no intelligence.
There's no intelligence, there's nothing there. It's like Descartes' I think, therefore I am, is like the ultimate narcissistic perspective. Alright, all there is my thoughts. All there is just my mind, you know?
Solipsism.
Exactly.
Do you find that certain people who maybe go too far into, not even just psychedelics, but just spirituality in general, who kind of grow this spiritual ego and then develop solipsism and then believe that only they exist in the universe and everything is them?
I don't know. I think there's only so far you can get with that, and I think there's a decent understanding of solipsism among people that I meet and that I know. It's like spiritual bypassing.
Yes.
It's like that concept's out there far enough that you just like, oh, spiritual bypassing. You know, it's still people who are doing it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like virtue signaling.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, we know it exists and it's out there in the culture, but people still do it, you know? So it's a little bit like that with solipsism. I don't think it's it's not a tenable position.
It usually doesn't last long.
No. It's a stage.
If you're honest with yourself.
Yeah, it's a stage. Like spiritual bypassing, it's a stage. Like virtue signaling, you're like, all right, and then you give it up and you're like, okay, none of that's necessary.
You get humbled eventually. Actually, before we go into like how to protect yourself, let's say, from these spiritual entities, or what to do if you do get attacked by one.
I'm being attacked by Mozzie.
Yeah, speaking of getting attacked by blood-sucking entities.
As below, so above.
Yeah, exactly. As within, so without. So what do you think of this idea? Because I've heard this in a few religious traditions who believe that, let's say, taking psychedelics is kind of opens up to demonic possession. Like, do you think there is something to that? Or do you think it's just all propaganda or misunderstanding?
I think demonic possession is much rarer than people think it is. And I know people who work, and have met people who work as exorcists, and there's not that many people who are seriously demonically possessed. I think when people say that, I think what they're saying is, hey, psychedelics can open you up to the spirit world, so they do allow these. I think that psychedelics do allow the entities to enter more easily. So that's a real problem. That's a real problem. And if people are not recognizing that problem, makes that problem even more problematic.
Right. So if you scoff at that idea, then that's probably not a good...
I think if you scoff at that idea, it's very dangerous.
What's going on, everybody? Hope you enjoyed this video and got some value out of it. You know, some of you may know, but Julian was actually my very first podcast guest, so it's kind of wild interviewing him again. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. We recorded over an hour's worth of content. I'll probably release the whole uncut thing on Patreon and be releasing multiple short videos like this over the next couple weeks. Listen, this is really important, so I hope that you stay until the end, because I know that every Tom, Dick and Harry YouTuber has a Patreon, right? And they pitch it at the end of their video, and it's probably white noise to most of you at this point. But you have to understand that the whole reason I started my Patreon, like, yes, of course, it's to help support my work and help this thing be more sustainable. But at the end of the day, because I make the kind of videos that I do, the ad revenue really is abysmal. And I've seen it with my own eyes, because I look at other channels that get the same amount of views that I do on a monthly basis, even less, and they're making like 20, 30x. What the fuck, YouTube, you know? But that's the way it is. That's the game that I chose to play. I knew that it was going to be difficult, and it hasn't gotten easier. And unfortunately, our Patreon pledges have been declining month after month after month. It's an uphill battle. It really is. But I really do try my best to put my heart and soul into this. And it's hard actually for me to even open up about these particular struggles. And this is actually like the 8th time I've recorded this video, because I know that when you ask for help, for some reason that can be controversial, and of course you're going to get haters and like, oh, just fucking just get a job, mate, and you know, whatever, and that's fair enough. But you have to understand that I really do put everything into this channel, and sometimes I go through my rut. Sometimes, yeah, sure, I might not upload as frequent as I should, and I'm sure that part of the reason is due to the stress, right? And sometimes I do some, you know, freelance work, some videography, photography, just to kind of help with this. But I really do want to put all my time and energy into this. That's just how I am, right? I'm kind of an all or nothing kind of guy, because if I do this on the side, I know myself, it's just going to fade away. And luckily, I'm so grateful for all you guys who've been following me this far. Not even our Patreon, but just everyone watching, liking, commenting, and sharing this around. But I'm going to be honest, it's been tough. And especially after the lockdown, especially living in Australia, but especially living in Melbourne. Holy shit, man. But luckily, lately, things have kind of, sort of, been going back to normal. And we got a lot of awesome content planned. I've actually been spending the last few months just literally vision planning, basically, and writing script and distilling this channel's future and the kind of videos I'm going to be making. And I still like doing this stuff, you know. I think that drug education is very important. Psychedelic education is even more important because we know less about it. And sure, underneath all that, it's kind of about self-development and transformation and just being a better human and helping each other out. And it kind of sucks sometimes when I think about that being truly genuine and authentic and doing the right thing and then not going for sponsors and all this kind of stuff. It's definitely cost me, literally. I feel like Patreon is something that all YouTubers have jumped on, but the reason why I didn't, channels like, you know, Psych Substance and in a similar niche, it's actually very important to sustain us. And it's kind of a shame seeing like people who make tens of thousands of dollars a month from ad revenue alone, plus sponsorships, plus their affiliate marketing, plus their course, and plus all these kind of things. And yet they're still kind of plugging their Patreon. That's fine. And I guess it's just, I don't know, man. I kind of feel like a bitch right now asking for help like this. I should just put a text, right? Support me on Patreon and just hope for the best. But that hasn't been working, man. I wanted to make this channel pure, right? Just make it about the content itself, and then hopefully people will see that, and eventually your revenue will go up, and you know, it's stuff like that. But that's, I don't know, maybe it was just the hippie in me. It was just hoping for the best and things will work out. Sometimes you get burnt out. Sometimes you get stressed out. You don't get a break from this. All right, just stick with me just for a little bit. We're almost done. I know that this is a long-winded outro, but I just want you guys to understand that making content like this, it burns bridges. It really does. So I'm shooting myself in the foot financially because I'm like the drug guy. So then companies don't really want to work with you. And I've been reached out by quite a few big name brands. And then I respond, I'm like, yeah, sweet, let's do a sponsor. And then they'll be like, actually on second thoughts, we're not a good match. It's just the stigma that goes around. Patreon is, well, right now it's at best that just might cover my rent. So yeah, I just want to ask you, mate to mate, if you get any value from this content and you truly wish to see it grow to the point where we can actually finally hire someone to kind of help out, because it's been a one-man band for like 5 years now, you know? But I just hope that at least some of you will consider supporting us, you know? And if not, that's cool too. I'm not going to hold that against you. That's fine. I'm still going to create this content. I really want to continue kind of doing this full time, but eventually being able to hire an editor. I guess I just wanted to share my side of it and just open up a little bit about my own struggles, because yeah, you know, sometimes it's tough, and I really do put, this is a full-time gig. It's more than a full-time gig. I put everything into this. If you want to help us, help us. If not, that's cool too, right? Whether it's financially or just a comment below or a like, helping with the algorithm or whatever, you know? Hope you enjoyed this video, and I genuinely wish you an awesome day and an awesome life. And yeah, catch you guys on the next one. Peace.